The university is surrounded by lush greenery, which makes the environment very pleasant.
Participating in various student organizations has given me a wide variety of leadership skills.
The teaching methods, along with the learning culture, has made me well equipped to top the board exam.
We can experience a variety of extracurricular activities throughout the semester.
English is used as the medium of instruction in most of our classes to help prepare students for work, both here and abroad.
As faculty of FEU, we engage in ongoing research, encourage scholarly discussions, and contribute in academic publications.
I was able to get a job right after graduation thanks to FEU's collaborations and industry partners.
The University Student Exchange Program gave me the opportunity to study in another country, to broaden my horizon, and to experience new cultures.
Internet connectivity is available in every part of the university, from the classrooms to the park, canteen, and even the hallway.
The university is well equipped with specialized learning spaces such as nursing rooms, a mock hotel, and even a TV studio. This gives you a close to real-life experience.
I really believe that FEU can bring out the best in all of us.
Hi everyone, good afternoon. Welcome to the FEU Alumni Speakers Bureau webinar series. This is Eric John Visda from the Alumni Relations Office, and we are in the 5th installment of our webinar series. And I know all of you, just like me, are ecstatic. Wow naman, na big word. I know all of us are ecstatic for today's session. Our topic is going to be informative, of course, really relevant, and lastly, it is going to be helpful to all of us, especially in this time. Now, currently, our fight against the COVID-19 virus is still ongoing. And because of that, we need to ready our quote-unquote primary PPE. May I call on our moderator for today, the Director of the Alumni Relations Office, the Director Selmer Santos, to formally open the program by introducing our speaker.
Thank you, Eric. Good afternoon, everyone. Our first speaker is a functional medicine doctor and heart math certified trainer. She is currently with Life Science Center, BioBalance Wellness Institute. As a functional medicine doctor and heart math certified trainer, our speaker guides people in discovering the root causes of their conditions. A fascination with the metaphysical led her to study energy medicine and incorporate mind-body medicine into her practice. Her desire to weave together Western knowledge with Eastern wisdom, the scientific with esoteric, has put her on a lifelong path of learning. In this session, she will share how simple daily habits can help us become healthier and have a better protection against COVID. Ladies and gentlemen, our first speaker, Dr. Eka Lorenzo. Good afternoon, Eka.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm excited to share with you. I have, I think, about 20 minutes to share with you. I'm just going to upload my slides, and just to emphasize, I want to emphasize that this is not going to be this is not going to be a technical discussion or a medical discussion about, the symptoms of COVID and personal protective, at least for my part, personal protective equipment in the sense of like face masks or face shields and all of these things. So as of just another introduction, my background is an internal medicine specialist or speaker, and I'm going to turn my video off so you can concentrate on the slides. And I trained in PGH, and I am a fellow of the Philippine College of Physicians. But I would like to help people with their health instead of with sickness. And so I took up training with all of these other institutes. And I currently practice with the Life Science Center, BioBalance, and soon I'm going to be practicing on an online platform called Go to Health. So that's my background, and let's proceed. So, familiar ba kayo sa picture na to? Do you know, I know, kilala niyo ba tong picture na to? Yung the wildebeest, right? Di ba ito yung kalaban nila Hiccup sa How to Train Your Dragon, right? And I put this picture here because I think what Hiccup is feeling in this picture is what we are feeling in the face of this pandemic, right? We feel small, nanliliit, natatakot, overwhelmed, helpless. Maybe for some, there's even a feeling of hopelessness. Would you agree?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So how do we deal with that? I'm gonna give a few slides on how a COVID affects our health. And again, this isn't about symptoms. Now, COVID primarily, the physical issue, it affects us if we get sick, and that is influenced by our age. So we all know, ang dami namang nasa news that the older you are, the worse your outcomes can be. Mas matindi yung sakit. But also it's affected by what's called comorbid conditions. So diabetes, high blood, heart disease, smoking, which are more common in the elderly population, but not only found in the older population. So even the younger population can have these problems. And then also it's affected by our health status to begin with. The roots of health, yung nutrition, your sleep quality. I know there was a question about sleep, and I'll answer that later on. Movement, stress levels. A lot of you are concerned about how do we deal with stress. But even before COVID came, all of these things, the way our our lifestyle habits affect health, are most of us already, medyo tagilid, like in one aspect or another. I think a lot of you will admit to that, no? Whether it's poor nutrition or laging nagpupuyat or walang exercise. Now, the other way that COVID is affecting us is all of the things happening in society, all of these lockdowns, the social distancing, having to wear face masks, to lessen transmission. And then there's all of this news about the virus mutating, becoming more infective, maybe more virulent. And all of that breeds a lot of fear and anxiety. And we can get caught in a vicious cycle. So kung baseline, hindi ka na ganun ka-healthy, tapos dagdagan natin ngayon ng fear and anxiety, lalo kang magiging unhealthy. So lalo kang magiging prone to get the condition. And, again, more fear. So vicious cycle, and we need to break it somehow. Now, another way that COVID has affected us is, I don't know if you've heard of text neck syndrome, and I'm pretty sure bago pa nag-COVID, lahat tayo meron na nito. Right? But nung nag-COVID, I think all the more, kasi we're constantly on our phones and gadgets to keep updated what's going on, what's the latest news, or for some, to keep distracted. Because hearing the news is just generates so much fear, even panic. So this text neck syndrome or this forward head posture can really cause a lot of problems. I want you to look at the x-rays on the right of the picture. So the top one, pansin nyo, pag diretso yung ulo, you can see the bones of the spine. They're stacked one on top of the other. And the load of your skull, yung head, is transmitted down the spine, right? It's being supported by your neck. But in a forward head posture, and you look at the x-ray on the lower part, you can see that the stacking of the the spine, nawawala. And what's holding up the weight of your head are your muscles. So the muscles of your neck down to your shoulders, they're having to contract to carry the load of your head. And when that happens, the neck muscles become chronically tense. The arteries delivering blood to the some parts of the face and then some parts of the brain, and especially the brain stem, is lessened. So kulang, pangit yung blood supply. And I think I don't need to explain, medyo self-explanatory na kung kulang ng blood supply, hindi maganda yon. The other thing that happens is your upper chest, it collapses into, try nyo ngayon, try nyo nakaangat yung ulo nyo, tapos try nyo yumuko, nang kunyari nagte-text kayo. You'll notice that your upper chest, it collapses and you reduce the space for your heart and for your lungs to move, right? And this causes, and we don't notice it because we're so used to it, but it can cause a dysfunctional breathing pattern. And dysfunctional breathing patterns actually affect our overall health in very profound way. So, bukod dun sa mas kulang, hindi ganun kaganda yung pasok ng oxygen and yung exchange na with blood, just the breathing pattern in itself has an effect. And I will explain that later on. So that's like a short how COVID affects us. Now, how your vagus nerve can help combat COVID and its consequences. So ito yung in the title, this is actually what I was referring to as our primary PPE, and Eric mentioned it. It's preparing us, our body. All of these face masks and face shields and hand washing, all of these are good, but these are second line, right? Because if a virus gets in through the face mask or, one instance, ang final line of defense mo really is your body, right? So for the next 20 minutes, I am going to introduce you to your vagus nerve. And I like this picture because this is hiccup meeting toothless for the first time. So ganun din, I will introduce you to your hiccup. 20 minutes is very short to introduce you to how powerful your vagus nerve can be. So I will try to simplify it as much as possible. And you'll find paulit-ulit ako. And that's on purpose because I want you to remember some specific points. Okay? Now, here is just a short, what do you call this, image to help you grasp how important the vagus nerve is. So yung vagus nerve, wandering nerve, it's a very long nerve. So it travels from your brainstem and then it goes through all of these organs that you see in the picture, right? So para siyang information superhighway, most of the messages are coming from our organs, whether it's your lungs or your pancreas, back to your brain. And then about 20% of the signals are coming from your brain to your organs. This nerve is involved in all of our basic functions. And if you notice, all of these functions are the involuntary ones, right? The ones we don't need to think about, the ones that happen automatically. We have some voluntary control, but, on the whole, this goes on without us knowing that it's going on. So to just make it more concrete as to how the vagus nerve functions. So here are some of its effects. And for example, this upper right of the screen, the red square, that the brain, it helps keep anxiety and depression at bay. So a lot of you had questions on how do we cope with the fear, anxiety, stress, depression that's generated by this pandemic. Okay, and the vagus nerve plays a role in regulating or modulating those emotions. In the liver, it helps regulate insulin secretion and sugar control. And we know that, I don't know if you read in the articles that, diabetes is one problem, but also there was a recent study that they showed even if you don't have diabetes, if you just have worse or higher blood sugar levels compared to someone with lower ones, the outcomes if you get COVID are worse. Okay. So again, the vagus nerve helps with sugar control. In the gut, it helps release the digestive enzymes. And that's important because in order to fortify our immune system, we need to be eating nutrient-rich foods. I think that's kind of common sense by now. But yung part na miss out ng karamihan is even if you're eating the healthiest food you can think of, organic salads, grass-fed beef, pero hindi mo siya nadadigest ng maayos, hindi mo siya natutunaw, hindi rin ma-absorb ng katawan mo yung nutrients. So again, the vagus nerve plays a big role in digestion and absorption of the nutrients we need. This last red square, inflammation. So the vagus nerve has a role in regulating our immune system, and that's something that's top of mind for all of us. How do we make sure na tama yung function ng immune system natin? Hindi sobra, too much inflammation. That's what they're finding out with the severe COVID cases is meron silang something called cytokine storm. Parang nasobrahan sila ng inflammation. On the other hand, ayaw din naman natin na sobrang hina ng immune system kasi paano niya lalabanan yung virus. So, kailangan, kumbaga, tamang timpla. And again, the vagus nerve plays a role in that. Have you heard of the term or the phrase, fight or flight? I think most people in the workshops or seminars I used to give in person, a lot of people will have heard of fight or flight, which is really basically about stress response, and it's for survival. But the other end of the spectrum is the rest and digest. So ito yung for relaxation and restoration. Okay? And you cannot be in both at the same time. Medyo self-explanatory yun. If you're fighting for your life or, running away from something, you're definitely not in a relaxed state. And that's kind of obvious. Ang hindi alam ng karamihan is if you're in yung kabaliktaran, if you're in a stress state, you can't, the functions for restoration and growth in the body, they can't proceed. Okay, so pag stressed ka, tas kumain ka, ewan ko kung narinig nyo na yung kasabihan, huwag ka magmadali kumain kasi baka maimpatso ka, hindi ka matunawan. Totoo yun, literally. You can be so stressed that your body cannot release digestive enzymes. And you end up, not digesting your food. So, to use another analogy, itong parasympathetic and sympathetic systems, para siyang dalawang kamay natin. And you need both, left and right, to function at your best. Pero, if you tend to favor one hand over the other, for example, right-handed ako, yun yung lagi kong ginagamit. Pang toothbrush, pang sulat, pang suklay ng buhok. And over time, my right hand I have better control over it than my left. Diba? Mas skillful siya. Yung left, dahil madalang ko gamitin, pag nag-toothbrush ako or nagsuklay ako, weird yung pakiramdam. I think you all know what I'm saying. Diba? Weird siya or medyo clumsier. So, ganun din. The same thing can happen with these two systems if we're always using or activating one over the other. In particular, sa atin ngayon, yung sympathetic system. A lot of us are stuck in this stress state. Even before COVID, but all the more when this pandemic happened. Right? I don't know how many of you find it easy to relax. And some people are so used to being stressed na feeling nila hindi sila stressed. Pero sa totoo, stress na stress yung katawan nila. Anyway, moving on. So before I get to the last part of the presentation, I just want to pose a question for you. Um, when we're training something, when we're learning a new skill, for example, crawling or touch typing, what are we developing? Is it our muscles or our nerves? If you think of babies when they're born, di ba nagagalaw na nila yung arms and legs nila? So their muscles are functional. But it takes time for them to learn to coordinate and to control those movements, right? It takes them several months to roll over, to crawl, to start walking. So it's not about whenever we're learning a new skill, it's not really about training the muscles. We're training the nerves that send signals to those muscles. So in effect, muscle memory is really nerve memory. So think of how you type, di ba? Hindi ko alam kung sino yung mga hunt and peck na index finger lang ang gamit, pero mabilis. Sa sino yung nagta-touch type with all 10 fingers. But again, it took time to learn that. And it's not the muscles, it's the nerves that you're training. So to give a not so happy example, for a person who gets a stroke and says, let's say, ma-paralyze yung kalahati ng katawan. Again, when you think of it, hindi yung muscles yung may problema, yung nerves, right? So hindi na makagalaw, not because the muscles are suddenly sira. It's the nerve, it's the signals that were sent to them. So lastly, this is Usain Bolt. I put in there just, what's the difference between Olympic athletes and regular people? But diba, Olympic athletes, they train so much more than regular people, or even just, the leisure athletes. Their whole life is about training, and not just physical training. They're also, mentally training themselves, emotionally training themselves. So, paulit-ulit, they're activating certain pathways, certain circuitry in their brain, and they're strengthening those pathways. So, the more you experience something, whether it's a physical movement, an emotional response, or a mental reaction, the better you get at it. Kasi yung repeated activation of that circuit reinforces it. So, I want you to think of stressing as a habit. A lot of us say, ay, stressed ako. Ay, nakaka-stress to. We use that word all the time, but actually stressing can become a habit. And the more and more you train in it, the better you can become at being stressed. That's like you always using the right hand, your sympathetic system, so that your left hand, the parasympathetic system, just becomes clumsy and, weak. Okay. So now that we know that you can train a nerve, let's proceed to how do you train your vagus nerve. And here is a picture showing just correct posture. So earlier I showed the slide with the text neck syndrome, the forward head posture. But really, most of us are slouched. So if you see the pictures below, all of us are sitting at the desk at our computers. Kind of check yourself kung aling posture yung meron ka ngayon. Or if you maybe slouched back. I didn't have it in the slide, but yung maling posture ng leeg, that you see those bones that are misaligned, that also happens with the rest of our spine. And it wasn't in the picture and you can't see it in the x-ray. But between each vertebra, the bones of our spine, nerves exit. They go from the brain down the spinal cord and they exit between the bones of our spine. So if you have these poor postures, you are impinging, naiipit yung nerves. So not naman to the point that you have pain, but still you are obstructing the optimal flow of their signaling to their organs. So there was someone who asked a question about how do we manage teaching PE in this time of COVID? And I don't know what the curriculum is for PE. I know before it's usually about sports. If in high school, you learn about volleyball. In college, you can choose social dancing, duckpin bowling. It's usually sports. Um, and I'll take this slide to answer that question of what I think would be a good way to teach or pivot the way we look at physical education in PE classes. One, of course, you have to do them in a space that has very good ventilation. Open air would be best so that you can follow the physical distancing. That's so important. And then wearing masks. But really, maybe we can shift PE from looking just at sports, but teaching movement and exercises that help correct posture, number one, that help you become more aware of your body. You know, there are many different approaches to this. For example, what about Tai Chi as a PE? That helps loosen all the different muscles that are usually so cramped. We stay in the same posture the whole day, which is usually slouched in front of some screen, right? And then Tai Chi at the same time can be a form of meditation. And meditation helps with combating stress and the effects of stress. Or just so that would be my. I just wanted to put in that question already. That maybe look at PE as a way to start correcting how the body mechanics, because I'm very interested in mind body medicine, how the mind affects the body. But you know, the body also affects the mind. So for example, if you see someone who is, you know, hunched over with his head down, anong isipin niya usually? Pag may nakita kang taong ganun yung upo, usually ang isipin niyo malungkot, 'di ba? Natalo, may pinagdadaanan, 'di ba? May iniisip. So there's this body language where, you know, that person is in a sad state or a down state. Okay. But that's also the posture most of us have nowadays, 'di ba? Nakayuko. So that actually, that posture of the body can send signals to our brain, and the emotions. So so hard to explain this virtually, but the body is not separate from our emotions. So for those of you who are asking, how do you deal with the fear and the anxiety? You know, just looking at your posture and trying to correct that can actually help. Sa mga, di ba meron yung mga power poses for public speaking, which is you have your, you know, you're standing straight and your shoulders are a bit back and your head is held high. And that actually makes you feel better. But that, if you think of it, that's actually a natural, that's our natural posture when we're feeling good. So when you're feeling these so-called negative or draining emotions, try and correct your posture and use your body to help you shift your emotions. Right? You can use your body to shift your mindset, to shift your inner state. And also, our every emotion has how do you call this? Merong body language yung emotions eh. So if you pretend to be ano ba? Just say, let's try an experiment, and I can't see all of you, but try and can all of you just slouch, unless you're already slouching. Slouch and have your, you know, hold your head down. And then say with emotion, I am so happy. Did you find that weird? Or like me, some disconnect? Conversely, try and sit up. Sit up. Open your eye. Open your, not your eyes. Open your arms. Look up at the sky. And say, I am so afraid. Again, did you feel a disconnect? If you are in this position and you're trying to express an emotion of fear. Yeah?
Yeah.
You felt that disconnect. So, number one, a simple habit that you can start is just pay attention to your posture, right? Because it affects our emotions. And then on a physical level, if you are always in this crouched position or slouched position, or the space for your internal organs is lessened. Everything's kind of squished together. Your lungs cannot expand properly. All of your, like, the digestive tract is also squished together. So how can they function properly or optimally if they're all just, nagsisikipan? And then again, the breathing pattern changes. So all of you assume your usual posture, and I want you to take a slow, deep breath and see if how deep a breath you can take. Tapos sit up and take another deep breath and see if that makes a difference. And if you notice a difference, that means that your usual posture is really needs to be corrected. Right? The slow, deep breaths activate the vagus nerve, and it stimulates the relaxation reflex. So if you're chest breathing, which a lot of us do, kasi sanay tayo sa stomach in para sexy tignan, breathing into our chest or shallow breathing, it doesn't activate the vagus nerve the way it should. So the signals, remember, your organs are sending signals to your brain via the vagus. The signals that are sent are of dysfunctional breathing. And again, the way we breathe also affects our emotions. Usually, we're familiar with emotions affecting the way we breathe. So pag natakot ka, nagulat ka, medyo biglang, di ba? Medyo bibilis yung hinga mo. Pag galit ka, mababaw din yung hinga, mabilis. But the other way also works. The way we breathe can shift our emotions. So whenever you're feeling anxious and scared, try and take a deep breath. This comes naturally to us actually. Diba pag ninenervyos, hinga lang, hingang malalim. You just need to be more aware of it. Okay, so a simple thing as your posture affects emotions and how your body organ functions and how your vagus nerve becomes activated. Remember, we want to activate the vagus nerve because activating it strengthens it. And if you strengthen it, then if you remember that other slide with all the different functions of the nerve, those also become better and more efficient. Okay. Here's two other habits that you can build into your daily routine. Pagka-toothbrush, wala sa picture, but pagka-toothbrush, gag yourself. Yung parang kind of make yourself na maduduwal. Not naman to the point na masuka ka. But just use your toothbrush and kind of stimulate the back of your throat to gag. Stimulate the gag reflex. The reason for that is the vagus nerve is one of the nerves that is responsible for the gag reflex. And so if you're stimulating that reflex, that means you're stimulating the vagus nerve and you're training your vagus nerve to be stronger and to fire more. And then after you gag yourself and you gargle, o yung mumug ka na, wala nang toothpaste sa bibig, magmumug ka ng nakatingala. And again, what that does is that activates all of the different muscles in the back of your throat. These throat muscles are innervated by the vagus nerve. So gargling na nakatingala is training for your vagus nerve. You're activating that vagus nerve. Okay? So simple things. You brush your teeth twice a day, and twice a day you can do 2 exercises to train your vagus nerve to become stronger. And then the other thing is sing in the shower. Singing or humming, again, especially humming, because when you hum, try and hum. No one naman can hear you right now. Try and hum, and you'll feel that vibration coming from the muscles of your throat. And so again, you're activating the vagus nerve. Also, when you're feeling afraid or sad, or try and sing. Or when you're angry, try and sing, because that also shifts your emotions. Although depende sa kakantahin mo. So, pili ka nung medyo upbeat, masaya. Wag naman yung tipong ulan ng ages. But sing, because again, that activates the muscles and also that affects our emotions. So, simple habit. Tayo pa namang Pinoy, mahilig naman talaga tayong kumanta. Magaganda lahat yung boses natin. So, use that. Another habit is eating mindfully. I don't know if any of you have encountered this, but just eating mindfully means being present at the table with your food, no gadgets, just being with the people you're eating with. And we could do a whole presentation and just eating mindfully, but I put in a red box here, savor the taste. So a lot of people, marami sa atin, mabilis kumain. Yung konting nguya lang, tas lulunukin na. 5-10 minutes, tapos nang kumain. But, and then, a lot of people also, they drink water habang kumakain. Tas immediately after kumain, iinom din ng tubig. So, hindi ko alam kung sino sa inyo yung ganon, pero parang halos lahat ng kilala ko at pasyente ko ganon. Mabilis kumain, umiinom ng tubig. And usually, ang reason nila sa pag-inom ng tubig is nabubulunan kasi sila, or para hindi sila mahirinan dun sa nilunok nila. So, let's kind of deconstruct this. Our tongue is innervated, the back part of it, by the vagus nerve. And ang role naman ng tongue natin, it's to taste. And we take that for granted. But what is it tasting? It tastes what's in the food, whether there's protein or carbs or fat. And those signals get sent to the brain, and then the brain relays messages to the digestive tract to say, oy, merong mataba tong kinakain, oily siya. I-ready mo, ilalabas natin yung bile. Kasi kailangan ng bile to digest fat. Right? So, if you're not savoring the taste, if you're chewing 3-4 times and then swallowing, and then you're drinking water, so nawawash away pa yung taste. Your tongue isn't able to send those signals via your vagus nerve to the brain saying, okay, we need to prepare this particular digestive enzyme, or wala, that doesn't happen. And again, if the tongue isn't able to send signals, that means your vagus nerve isn't being activated. So hindi mo siya nagagamit. So mahina siya, and all the other functions can be affected because it's just weak in general. So that's one. You want to be savoring the taste, chewing your food, making sure it's nahalo na siya with laway. Pag nahalo siya with laway, hindi ka mahihirinan or mabubulunan kasi madulas na siya. Saka durog na yung pagkain. So wala dapat big pieces na you can choke on. Okay, so that's one. And then limit water with meals. One, so that you're not washing away that taste. You're not washing away that signal that the tongue has to send. The next layer of this is that if you're drinking a lot of water Hindi, balik tayo dun sa savoring the taste. If you're chewing really fast or not chewing, properly, the food doesn't get broken down in your mouth. Hindi siya mechanically na-breakdown. Hindi siya nami-mix masyado with saliva. Saliva is actually a digestive enzyme. It starts to digest the food in the mouth. So, pag hindi mo siya ginaya ng maayos, pagpasa mo siya sa tiyan, may buo-buo pa. And that you're giving the stomach a harder time to digest the food that you swallowed. Tapos, dagdagan mo pa ng umiinom ka ng tubig habang kumakain o kaya immediately after. The stomach acid that your body produced becomes diluted. Tinubigan mo. So, hindi na siya kasing tapang. The acidity doesn't drop. Our stomach acid should drop to about pH of 1.5 to 2.5. Almost as strong as battery acid. Para matunaw niya yung mga kinain natin. And also, may mga certain other enzymes in the stomach to digest protein na only become activated once that pH drops to 2.5 and below. So, kung tinubigan mo siya ng tinubigan, hindi lalabnaw siya. The acidity will not drop. Those other enzymes will not get activated. Hindi mo ma-digest, matutunaw ng maayos yung food, particularly protein. And that's what our body is made of, protein. Hindi mo rin ma-absorb yung minerals. And so a lot of people now are drinking zinc, which boosts the immune system. And again, people forget, after you take it in, after you swallow it, your body actually has to absorb it. Right? Just because you swallowed it doesn't mean it's inside your body anymore. It's already inside your body. Case in point, pag kumain tayo ng mais, minsan, pag poops mo, may buo pa ring mais. Dumaan lang siya dun sa bituka mo. But your body was not able to absorb it and utilize the nutrients. That's another layer of why you want to eat mindfully, is you need to digest the food so that you can get the nutrients in that food, so that your body can then use those nutrients for your immune system to function better, to make new white blood cells, which are made out of protein, so that they can defend you from viruses and bacteria and other invaders. Okay, so again, a simple habit which we take for granted. 3 times a day tayo kumain. And these 3 times a day, you can be training your vagus nerve and also just improving your health. I guess last just want an example of yung training the vagus with savoring the taste. So pag nakanood kayo ng mga, di ba marami na yung mga TV show na mga chef saka cooks, whether home cook yan or professional chef. But a lot of them, pag may sinubo sila, di ba some of them can identify like specific ingredients. Oh, this has thyme or rosemary or whatever. And if you think of it, how do they do that? How can they take 1 spoonful and be able to say, ito yung halo nito? Or, ito yung kulang ng konting sugar or whatever. When you think of it, that's because they have trained their vagus nerve to transmit that information from their taste buds to their brain and make that connection na, okay, this is the taste of oregano or whatever herb or spice it is. Okay, so just want to try and make it very concrete, this parang very abstract, training the vagus nerve, but it's possible. Moving on almost to the last habit. I put this the last because if you forget everything else, this is the one I want you to remember. Because the best way to train your vagus to function optimally is to learn how to breathe properly. So I was saying kanina, the breathing patterns send messages to our brain. So for example, I want all of you to try and just kanina ginawa na natin yung deep breath habang naka-slouch, deep breath habang naka-sit up with your back straight. So I want you to sit up with your back straight. And then put one hand on your chest, one hand on your belly button, parang yung babae sa picture. And I want you to take a deep breath. Yung normal deep breath for you, whatever that means for you, take 1 or 2 deep breaths. And just notice which moves more, your chest or your belly. And I'm willing to bet that, if not all of you, the majority of you will feel your chest move more. Because it's very common, we're chest breathers. As babies, we breathe using our diaphragm the correct way. But as we grow older, we want to stomach in para maliit ang tiyan. Diba? And we tend to start breathing into our upper chest. And this kind of breathing, which is shallow, you're bringing air only to the upper part of your lungs. This kind of shallow breathing is usually how we breathe when we're in danger. And so right now, even if we're not in danger, but you're breathing that way, you're sending that signal to your brain. We're in danger. We have to be in survival mode. Kahit na hindi naman talaga tayo in danger at nagpapamacho lang tayo like Superman, di ba? Chest out, stomach in. So, we need to learn how to relearn, kasi alam natin to before. We need to relearn something called diaphragmatic breathing. We need to unlearn yung stomach in, chest out posture. Yung sexy/macho posture. And we need to also practice breathing slowly and deeply. The reasons behind this, in addition to getting your vagus nerve to fire properly and detect na, okay, ito yung tamang breathing pattern. The other one there is that if you're breathing something called the diaphragmatic breath, you're bringing air all the way down to the bottom of your lungs. And the bottom of your lungs, the bottom 1/3, doon pinakamataas yung blood flow. Pinakakonti yung blood flow sa upper part ng lungs. Ang whole goal ng breathing is to have air and blood come together so you can get oxygen and breathe out carbon dioxide. Pero kung hindi naman sila masyadong nagkikita, kasi yung air mostly nasa upper lungs, tapos yung blood supply mo nasa lower lungs, wala din. Sorry. So breathing deeper will give you more oxygen, and that's so important. Diba, again, with COVID, ang isang problem is the oxygenation. Yun yung nagkaka-problema. But a lot of us, baseline, hindi na rin optimal yung oxygenation because of all of these things that I mentioned. Most of us have suboptimal oxygenation because of all of the different factors I mentioned. Yung posture, yung nakasanayan nating breathing pattern. So, ang good news dyan is that every day, we all have like hundreds of opportunities to start training your vagus nerve because every day we take hundreds of breaths. So now I want you to sit up or maybe stand up, whichever you find easier. And I'll try and teach you how to take a diaphragmatic breath. So stand up or sit up and put your hands on your waist, pamewang. And then slowly inch up, parang inch up or iakyat nyo yung hands nyo until you can feel your lower ribs, the lowest ribs. So sa harap, saka, well, sa likod din, but more sa harap nyo siya mararamdaman. And then I want you to just take a deep breath, your normal, how you're used to taking a deep breath. And just kind of feel how those ribs move. Do they move at all? Or do they move konti lang? they move sideways, just try and note how they're moving. And then next, when you take your next deep breath, try and make these lower ribs move outward and upward. So parang upward sa may bandang front and then outward sa sides ng katawan mo. I don't know if you can visualize that, and if you can actually feel the ribs moving.
Yeah, it's moving upward.
So upward and also outward. So
Yeah.
So that means that the bottom part of your lungs are also expanding, and the diaphragm, which is the muscle between our chest and our abdominal cavity, is also moving. So there are so you can try and practice that. For those of you who didn't feel it moving or konti lang yung galaw, that's one way to gauge kung you're taking a deep breath the proper way. Also, if you have the last three fingers, diba your index finger is on the rib, your last three fingers are on your belly. You should also feel your belly move a little. Not naman yung papalakihin mo siya, but it's also expanding a little because as the diaphragm flattens, syempre napupush niya ng konti yung bituka at yung laman ng belly. So, nag-expand outward yung belly. Okay? So, that's diaphragmatic breathing. And if you practice this, set an alarm. So, I want all of you to take out your phones, or if you're watching this on a phone, and go to the reminder app or to the clock app. And I want you to set an alarm right now. Pick a time of the day, set an alarm, and name it deep breath.
Just one, or how
I like this question. However much you want. One is better than none.
None.
Right? And I like that one kasi, sometimes then when it comes to these habits and practices, if you said, okay, I'm going to do 5 minutes of deep breathing, that's harder than just, okay, I'll do a deep breath now. Or kunyari, pumunta kang banyo, pagka-flush mo, ay, naalala mo mag-deep breath nga ako. Start small, but set an alarm because, it helps build that habit.
No, how many times?
Different ways to approach this. You can set a goal of, let's just say, 6 breaths. However long that takes. Or conversely, you can say, okay, I'll do a deep breathing for 1 minute. However, ilan man breaths yung magawa mo in 1 minute. So it depends. See what works for you. Some people, it's if they count, it's better. Some, they don't want to count, but mas gusto nila yung, okay, may alarm na 1 minute. After 1 minute, okay na. Right? But the thing is just to set an alarm and get started. And then also, over time, try and increase. So, kunyari, I'll start with just six breaths. Every time mag-alarm tong phone ko, 6 breaths. And then later on, papalitan ko, lalagay ko na 12 breaths. And then later on, so, and then again, just remember, we're breathing anyway. So any time of the day, you can do this. The best times to do this will be around meals. So before you eat, pagkaupo, take at least 6 deep breaths or 1 minute of deep breathing. And what that will do is it will shift your body into something called the parasympathetic state, which is the rest and digest state, which they have actually shown that you absorb nutrients better if you are in a parasympathetic state. Kasi nga, ready mag-release ng digestive enzymes yung katawan mo. At saka yung blood supply is concentrated back into what we call yung visceral cavity, kung nasan lahat ng internal organs. Right? Kasi kapag fight or flight, ang blood supply, yung stress response, nasa muscle. Kasi ready siya to either nga fight or run. So before meals and also after meals. Kasi a lot of us eat hurriedly, yun nga, mabilis. Yung pagkahuling subo, tayo na agad. So even after the meal, also take the time to just do some deep breath and hopefully kind of stay in that rest and digest state. The other time to practice this will be at bedtime. So pagkahiga. And this helps you, this helps shift your body into a relaxed state so you can sleep and improve the quality of your sleep. And since I already mentioned sleep, I think I might as well, there was one question that I wanted to answer. And the question is about sleeping late. If sleeping late affects our immune system, even if you still get the 7 to 8 hours. And the sad answer there is yes. Sleeping late will affect your immune system. And not in a good way. Okay, so, and if you've heard of the term circadian rhythm, right? Yung diurnal rhythm natin, which is synchronized to day and night. There is a field of study called chronobiology. And studies the cyclic, the cycles in living organs, in living organisms, and how they can be synced to the sun and the moon cycles. Now, if you're sleeping late, and I don't know how late is for you. For some people, 12 midnight is late. For some, that means 3 or 4 a.m. I have some patients na 4 a.m. That throws your circadian rhythm off. Okay. There are things called, we have genes that they call clock genes. And we have them in all of our organs. And those clock genes are entrained by our circadian rhythm. So they have discovered, and some of this research was, 2012, 2013, so medyo matagal na, that the circadian rhythm regulates specific immune function. So may certain cycle yung release ng red blood cells, kailan sila mas active. There was one study, although in mice, na depende kung kailan sila in-expose or I think in-injectan nung E. coli, which is a bacteria. Depende dun sa time that they got it, kung mag-survive sila or mamamatay sila. So that circadian rhythm is so important. And that's something that's so screwed up nowadays kasi, everyone has gadgets and there's Netflix and you can watch until the wee hours of the morning. But when they look at something called biological rhythm disorders, kasama dun yung anxiety and depression. So there are some questions asking about anxiety and depression. And yes, the pandemic is scary and it's completely normal if you're feeling anxious and depressed. But also think about maybe your habits during the pandemic, during the lockdown, also is contributing to that anxiety and depression. If your circadian rhythm has been disrupted, then that can also be contributing and making that emotion of anxiety and fear and depression worse. Okay. Biological rhythm disorders also increase your risk for diabetes and getting fat. And we know that diabetes makes the outcomes of COVID much, much worse. And then we also know that getting fat makes us at risk for many conditions: diabetes, high blood, heart disease, and dami. Okay. So yes, if you've been sleeping late, then you might want to consider shifting that. It's good that you're getting the 7 to 8 hours, but it also matters when you're getting that. And ideally, we're in bed before midnight, so 10 to 11, and then we wake up mga 6 to 7. And that's kind of, paano ba? The biggest influencer, the biggest influencer, the thing that sets our circadian rhythm is light. Bago nagka-electricity, ang tao bumabangon pagsikat ng araw, tapos pag lumubog na siya, wala na silang ibang magagawa kasi madilim na, matutulog na. Pero ngayon, all of us are on our gadgets even while we're in bed. So the quality of your sleep is also important. So you can be getting 7 to 8 hours. Duration-wise, okay ka sa quantity. Pero kamusta naman yung quality? Mahimbing ba yung tulog mo? Malalim ba? Important din yung quality, hindi lang yung quantity. And how do you know if you have good quality sleep? Pag gising mo, you feel refreshed. Hindi ka groggy. Hindi ka, tinatamad bumangon kasi pagod ka pa rin. So haba ng sagot ko dun sa question, shifting back, doing the deep breathing exercises at bedtime will help you get to sleep faster, and it will also help improve the quality of your sleep. I just want to touch on something. So I'm a heart math certified trainer, and I want to touch on the electromagnetic field of the heart. And then after this, we're going to do some breathing exercise. But I want to touch on this because this is something that is so powerful, pero hindi tayo aware. So alam natin, I think most of us know the heart generates electricity. But pag nagpa-ECG ka, yung mga linyang nasa ECG, that's measuring electrical activity. Kaya siya electrocardiogram. And anything that generates electricity generates an electromagnetic field. And what do electromagnetic fields do? They transmit energy and information. So in the case of the heart, yung energy and information na tina-transmit niya depends on its rhythm. How is it beating? What is the pattern of that beating? Is that rhythm coherent or incoherent? And this isn't the time to explain the different patterns, but I wanted to share with you that the heart sends out information. Right now, the instruments that we have can measure this electromagnetic field up to about 3 feet away from our body. 360 degrees. So, sa harap sa kasalikod. And these electromagnetic fields are constantly broadcasting information. And they're broadcasting information to our cells. Right? So, for example, if you are feeling, and they say the heart is the seat of emotions. If you're feeling anger, that energy, the emotion contained, the information contained in that emotion is being broadcasted to your cells. Or if you're constantly afraid. Conversely, if you're, happy or you're feeling calm, that's a different message that your heart is sending out. So, di ba merong happy people, happy people live longer. And happy people are healthier. And also, people who are usually angry or afraid tend to get sick more. I think later on, they'll find out this electromagnetic field of the heart plays a big, big role in that. So this EMF of the heart is sending messages to your cells. It's also sending messages out to your environment. And if it's 3 feet, away from your body, we're also interacting. It's also interacting with the energy fields of everyone else that's around us. So hindi ko alam, and I wanted to share this kasi during, I think it was April, I couldn't understand kung bakit sobra kong down. I was so down, parang ang dami kong gustong aralin, ang dami kong gustong online course na panoorin, ang dami kong backlog na librong babasahin, wala akong magawa. Hindi ko siya maintindihan until a friend reminded me na ikaw yung nagtuturo na yung electromagnetic field ng heart is broadcast. And the whole, not just actually the whole country, the whole world was in the throes of this pandemic. And can you just imagine all of the emotions being broadcasted out? And I don't know if you noticed, the moment na nilift nila yung GCQ nung June, nag-iba din yung pakiramdam ko. Sabi ko, okay, because also the general emotion of everything. So, what can you do? There were some questions like, what can we do as a student to help? Or, as an individual, what can we do? Because a lot of the things are not within our control. How many PPEs get manufactured? How many beds are available in the hospital? None of that is directly in our control. But we can control the information we're sending out into the world. And guess what? Guess what makes our heart's rhythm beat coherently? And what makes it transmit at least calm, if not happy emotions, at least calm or a feeling of neutral. Breathing deeply, slow, deep breaths. And I will keep coming back to that. Promise is that the only thing you take away, I will be happy. Learn to breathe slowly and deeply and mindfully. Even if it's just 5 minutes out of the 24 hours in a day. Because again, you'll be training your heart to beat that way. You'll be training your heart's rhythm to beat that way. And I run whole day workshops for heart math. So this is just scratching the surface. But, that's something you can do. Take care of what you're broadcasting out. It's easy to feel scared. That's normal. Parang abnormal nga kung hindi kami some, anxiety and fear about our future. But also, we have control of our emotions. We can choose naman to not wallow in that fear or make it bigger. We can choose to look at, okay, I'm so grateful that despite everything, we have access to our teams and be able to attend webinars like this. So just whatever you're broadcasting out, that's your contribution to society already. And sabi nga meron akong nung nag-start tong lockdown and ABS-CBN was still on the air, and they came up with the theme song na ang favorite line ko there is, don't share the hate and scare. Spread never-ending love and care. And you can do that by just taking care of what you're broadcasting through your heart. Okay? So, let's all do the fundamental breathing exercise of heart math. It's called heart-focused breathing. And right now, I don't want you to huwag mo nang problemahin kung diaphragmatic breathing ba to, nag-expand ba yung lungs ko. Just follow I will talk you through it, follow my words. If you want to close your eyes, no one can see you, but maybe you want to close your eyes just so you're not distracted. And then I want you to, before we start, I want you to think of an adjective that describes how you're feeling right now. And maybe you can type it into the chat box so I have an idea of the things people are feeling right now. And let's see if we can shift that. Hi. So, focus your attention in the area of your heart. And just imagine your breath is flowing into and out from your heart area. Breathing a little slower and a little deeper than your usual. You can try to count 5 seconds for the inhale, 5 seconds for the exhale, or just follow whatever pattern is comfortable for you. And if any thoughts begin to intrude, that's okay. Just bring your focus back to the area of your heart and keep imagining your breath flowing into your heart and out from your heart. Now, if you're ready, I want you to try and generate, just make a sincere attempt to feel hope. Make a sincere attempt to really feel genuine hope. And then when you're feeling that, just try and radiate that hope out. And that may sound weird and you don't know how to do that, but just have the intention to radiate and send out that hope. Because whatever we are feeling, we are broadcasting out through our heart's field. Okay. And then so we can stop doing the exercise. That's actually I thought we went through two techniques. One is heart focused breathing, which is self-explanatory, and then something called heart lock-in, which is doing the heart focused breathing and then activating or making a sincere attempt to feel a renewing emotion, whether it's hope or it's gratitude or it's love, or appreciation for something or happiness, and then radiating that out, locking that emotion in and radiating it out to the world. And that it might sound weird to a lot of you. How do you radiate it out? Just wanted to know that we're so used to doing this with the draining negative emotion. With everything that's happening, yung galit sa gobyerno, yung galit sa lahat. We're already radiating out these draining emotions. So we need to practice sending out the renewing one. Okay, I went over time, but so that's the last of my slides. I hope, like in this picture, all of you, in with time, we'll all have our own dragon to fight this COVID and win. So it's time for Q&A. Thank you for letting me extend. If you want to contact me, here's my email address. These are the websites of the clinics I practice in. And if you want more information about HeartMath, there's their website. Thank you.
Thank you, Doc Eka. Announcement. Sorry, Dr. J. Mamat had medical emergency. For our Q&A, what is the best way to protect yourself when you have a weak immune system? I know somehow this was touched already, but maybe you can elaborate on this, Doc Eka.
Okay. Yeah, sorry. The quick answer is you need to do things to strengthen your immune system. And when in functional medicine, when we approach conditions, we look at the roots of health. So, make sure, and the roots of health are 5: nutrition. So make sure you're eating healthy foods, whole foods, nutrient-dense foods, which usually means a lot of vegetables, fresh fruit. The way it's cooked, mas okay yung mga say bulalo, sabaw, sinigang, tinola, more than the fried or deep fried ones. And then also making sure you're digesting properly. So nutrition, remember, is what you're eating and how you're eating. The next root of health would be sleep. And I already mentioned how that can affect your immune system. So make sure you're getting good quality sleep at the proper time. Right? Just sleep, between 10 and 11, definitely before 12 when you're awake, 6, 7, or even 6 to 7. Movement. So movement does not necessarily mean exercise. So it would be good if you had regular exercise. They have shown that exercise boosts your immune system. It also guards you against mood disorders. It's as good as the antidepressants for treating depression. So make sure you have some movement, whether it's just taking a walk, or if mahirap ngayon maglakad sa labas, walk up and down the stairs. If you have that in your house, or walk around your living room, just walk. Or Zumba, if that makes, whatever fits your fancy for movement. It doesn't need to be a very rigid or structured exercise program. And then stress, just learning how to cope with stress, because the most one of the most parang potent immune suppressant is stress. And so all of the different things we talked about can help you with that.
Okay.
I hope that's an answer.
Yeah. So since you mentioned about stress or anxiety, so how true it is that most of the major sickness like cancer, heart disease, diabetes actually somehow emanates from stress or anxiety?
How true it's true.
How true it is. Because some people are saying a lot of those major diseases like cancer, heart disease, diabetes are actually a result of anxiety.
It's very true. If you remember that slide with the sympathetic and parasympathetic system, the sympathetic system is about survival. The parasympathetic system is about growth and restoration. And when you and if you're always in a stress mode, you will always be in survival mode. And the biochemical, parang the different hormones and substances and neurotransmitters released in our body are different when we're in a survival mode versus we're in a growth and restoration mode. And all of the functions of the different organs also. So, for example, magandang example, see cancer. Cancer cells, ideally, when they're abnormal, our immune system can identify that they are abnormal and they need to be killed off.
Okay.
Right? But if your immune system is suppressed, or because of stress, you're not digesting your food properly, so you're not getting the nutrients that your immune system needs to function, then it might be that those pa-isa-isa pa lang na cancer cells, nakakalusot. Hindi sila na-identify ng immune system. And then they can grow and they can multiply, and then sooner or later will be detected as a tumor already. Or, so, I hope I answered the question. But yeah, it's very true. The other thing they're finding out with all of these chronic conditions, whether it's cancer, diabetes, or heart disease, a lot of them have an underlying common factor, which is inflammation. Prolonged, chronic, repetitive inflammation. Inflammation kasi per se is not bad. Not natural yun. Di ba, pag kinagat ka ng langgam, mamumula, mamamaga, natural siya na response. Pero dapat hindi siya tuloy-tuloy. So that's what they're seeing. Inflammation is playing a big role. And stress, unfortunately, if you're always in a stress survival mode, that promotes chronic inflammation.
Okay. So, okay, next. Well, I think these two can go together. You mentioned about the food. Which one is better, half cooked or fully cooked? And in terms of chewing food, how long or how many chew do you recommend?
Okay. I'll answer the chewing question first. So they actually did a study on this. Per mouthful, 20, 30, 40 chews. And the best outcomes were in the group na 40 chews per mouthful. But, you don't need to count. You don't need to time yourself. Mindful eating, if you do that, it's really pay attention to the texture of the food. Total, you're supposed to be savoring it. So, yung sinubo mong kanin and ulam na buo-buo, pag mush na siya, pag hindi mo na ma-identify na ito yung kanin, ito yung ulam, then lunukin mo na siya. Just mindful eating. Counting can stress you out. Timing yourself, like have I chewed enough, will stress you out, which is, again, counter to the whole point. But mindfully eating, just chewing and slowing down should be enough. Masistress ka lang kung timingan mo yung sarili mo. The other question, half-cooked, fully cooked, there's no straight answer to that. For example, there are certain foods like, let's say, bell pepper, which is high in vitamin C. Once you cook it, it kind of loses that. So that would be better like raw in a salad. Or kung, for example, isama siya sa kaldereta, hindi pa kung paano kayo yung recipes nyo. Sa dulo nyo na siya ilalagay para hindi masyadong luto. But there are other foods that actually the cooking process helps bring out the nutrients that are in them. For example, tomatoes and that lycopene. The heat from the cooking helps to release the lycopene. So wala siyang, one straight up answer kasi it depends. And then also, yung fully cooked depends on how fully cooked. Parang to the point ba na lanta na. So for example, broccoli, which is has a lot of nutrients. You don't want to eat it raw, but you also don't want to eat it na yung sobrang luto lanta na. You just want to blanch it like mga 1 to 2 minutes in boiling water tapos iaahon mo na. So ano siya, yun. Whole other discussion.
Okay. So Alfred and Glory may have the same question. Parang bakit daw parang pag pinapansin mo yung breathing, parang mas mahirap huminga or parang nakaka-stress or anxiety?
Okay. That's a good question. I also find that with some of my patients, most of us are so used to yung dysfunctional breathing na when we're trying to do something different, it feels weird for the body. And that's with anything, not just breathing. If you do something habitually, for example, if you touch type, tas ang pwede mo lang gamitin index finger, it'll also feel weird and you'll be very self-conscious. So for those of you who have a hard time learning the diaphragmatic breathing, just try yung heart-focused breathing. And then just keep at it. Sooner or later, mawawala yung parang yung sinasabi yung feeling of anxiety.
Anxiety, yeah.
Feeling na weird siya. Ano lang, just keep trying it and sooner, as with any skill, the first time naman you do it, parang weird, parang di mo yung feeling niya weird. But just keep trying. Remember, nung bata tayo, ganyan tayo lahat huminga. So, sooner or later, maaalala rin ng katawan mo na, ito pala siya.
Okay, I think this is the last question. Ma'am, why other people who advises us to drink more water before we eat meal or before we eat our meal po? They say it wakes up the taste buds, pero sabi niyo po, di siya okay.
Okay. Okay, I've not heard that yet, yung drinking water before meals to wake up your taste buds. But water doesn't really taste like anything. It doesn't have any calories in it, doesn't have any of the five tastes: sweet, salty, bitter. So I'm not sure how that can make it up. Although, pwede siguro kasi saliva helps us taste better. So maybe they mean if you drink water, you'll have more saliva. Okay, with drinking water, I also want to make clear kasi a lot of people drink water with meals because they're trying to take yung adequate amount of water, like yung 8 glasses a day na stereotype. You want to be getting your water between meals because also our digestive enzymes and our stomach acid, these are liquids. So your body needs to be well hydrated to make the digestive enzymes. So if you're gonna drink before meals, give a 10-minute interval. So pagkainom, 10 minutes before you actually eat. Kasi kapag tubig lang yung lamang ng tiyan, mabilis niyang pinapasa sa small intestine. Pero kapag may kasama na yung food, hindi. So I don't know about waking up the taste buds, but if you're going to drink before, just make sure you give a 10-minute interval. After meals, ang interval at least 30 minutes before you drink. Last na, if you really need to drink while you're eating, either sabaw, whether nor soup yan or talagang sabaw. Kasi yon may lasa. So the taste buds still taste something. And then the other option is salabat because ginger helps stimulate digestion. It actually helps us digest better. There.
Same with luyang dilaw or turmeric.
I'll have to double check, but I don't think so. Turmeric is very beneficial, but I don't think it has the same effect on digestion specifically as ginger.
Okay. Okay. So I think that wraps up our session for today. Thank you again, Dr. Eka.
Okay. Thank you for this opportunity also. Yeah. Please share with your friends and family.
Yeah, we will. I'll turn you back now to our host, Eric, for some announcement. Eric?
Yes, and hello again, everyone. We would like to thank or extend our sincerest gratitude to our speaker for today, Doc Eka, for sharing us helpful ways, steps, and habits on how to cope up with stress and anxiety, how to be more healthy, especially now in this pandemic. Actually, not only in this particular virus, but let's be safe, take note, and always remember what Doc Eka discussed. Be safe anytime and anywhere. Okay, guys, please, okay? So your discussion today was very useful and informative to every one of us who attended this session. So, okay, so that's it for our session today. I know that you still have questions that you would want to ask to our speaker, but don't worry because we are going to provide an evaluation form for today's session, and there will be a part wherein you could provide your questions. So now I am sending the link of the evaluation form for the participants to accomplish in the chat box now. Okay, now a few announcements and reminders to everyone. So for those who are asking, there will be a replay of the session. We will post the recorded video for this webinar session in the official Facebook pages of Far Eastern University and the FEU Alumni Relations Office. So please stay tuned on that one. Also, we are inviting everyone to join us in the next installment of our webinar series. So the title is Youth Volunteerism Amidst the COVID-19 Pandemic. So we will be having great speakers for this session. So please attend and register. So the session would be on July 30, 2020. So that's a Thursday, 2 p.m. through Microsoft Teams. Now for the registration, we will keep you posted on the details within the week for the registration through our official social media sites.